All right, Shalom Israel, with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Yohana. We're not affiliated with any other Israelite group or any other Christian organization. All right. So now, of course, we all know we're in the Feast of Dedication, which is known as Hanukkah or Hachaanakah in the Hebrew, all right? So this is a very, very important week for the real Jews, which are black. All right. Now remember, keep in mind, all right, the so-called white man, our oppressor, the Jewish man, he is not the real Jew. All right. He keeps our customs because he stole our customs. All right. If anybody has any questions, just let me know. But I'm gonna just get into why we celebrate Hanukkah, why we're in the Feast of Dedication. All right. It's actually something to remember. Now, for an example, a lot of us know about Hanukkah simply because of our oppressor. You know, every time during the holiday season after Thanksgiving, you see all the Jewish people doing all these dances and spinning dreidels and giving gifts to each other and having a good, just a good time, right? Well, none of that is actually in the Bible when it comes to giving the gifts on Hanukkah, spinning the dreidels and any of that, and wearing the yarmulke. Like that's just our oppressor's culture and custom, and our in heathen or pagan practices that they put into our culture and into our customs or into our records. All right. So now, when it comes down to it, the Feast of Dedication on Hanukkah is actually a very important event. All right, it was an event of wars that was going on. All right, it took place during the Greek captivity. All right, how many of you knew that Alexander the Great was spoken about in the Bible? Did you know about that? Okay. Did you know about that? Come. What about you, sis? Did you know about that? No. Right. Oh, well, Alexander. Right. Okay. No sweat. Alexander the Great. He was in the Bible, and he was a real figure in history. Right. We actually went to school and we learned about Alexander the Great. We learned about how he was a fearless leader. He went into Egypt and started wars and things like that. Well, that's true, and he's in the Bible because he was one of our, you could say, our masters. All right, he ruled over us. He conquered our people, and that's what the Maccabees is about. So go ahead and give me, actually, go to First Maccabees. I believe it's in First Maccabees chapter 1, and we're gonna get Alexander the Great in the Bible. We're gonna get that. We're gonna start, and you start at verse 1. We're gonna start at verse 1. Does anybody have any questions though before I continue in? Also, anybody online too, if you have any questions, just let me know.
First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened after that, Alexander, son of Philip.
It said what?
Alexander, son of Philip.
So Alexander, the son of Philip. This is referring to Alexander the Great. All right, that's the only Alexander that you've ever heard of when it comes to the Grecians going against Persia and things like that. Continue reading up.
The Macedonian,
Mm-hmm.
who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes.
Now you can go into history, everybody, and you can just look this up on your own time. But look up the Persian War against the Greeks. That's a real event that happened. How many of who knows about the movie 300? Anybody? Anybody familiar with the movie 300? Somewhat. All that is real. Everything. All right. The only thing they didn't put it there is they should just put some Jews that were black, and that would have made the movie. But we were all there. All right. The Persians going against the Greeks, the Medes, and then the Egyptians and all that. For an example, I believe it's going to. This is Darius. I believe Darius, if I'm not mistaken, historically speaking, Darius was after Xerxes, Artaxerxes. Xerxes was the first Persian ruler, and then shortly after that, then it became Darius. So actually, if we soon we're going to what is that? The Feast of Purim, about the sister Esther. This is like around this time frame, like not exactly at this time frame, but historically breaking everything down. Like this is who's in power. All right, this is who's in power. So you have Xerxes, and then after that you have Darius. If you actually read, if you go into the book of Daniel, all right, the book of Daniel, he was in captivity. All right, the Jews were in captivity under two kings. He was under Babylonian captivity, and he was under the Persian captivity. So he saw two captivities. All right. If you don't know anything about Daniel as well, Daniel went into the lion's den not just once, but twice. I don't know if y'all knew that. All right. A lot of people only know about one event about Daniel going into the lion's den. All right. That's because the Catholic Church, they took out books in the Bible, which we now know as the Apocrypha, the original King James 1611, right? And so they took books out of the Bible, and there's a record in the Apocrypha that lets you know that, of course, Daniel, being a upright man of God, that's not going to not worship his God, they put him in the lion's den as a punishment for not worshiping the gods and the idols of the Persians. So going back to Artaxerxes, all right, and then into Darius, Alexander went to war with the Persians. He won. Darius was done. All right, he was done. Remember, Daniel, the prophet Daniel, also lived during the time of Darius the king. Go ahead.
That he reigned in his stead.
And he reigned in his stead. So now this is the beginning. Go ahead.
The first over Greece.
It said what?
The first over Greece.
So this is Alexander the Great. This is how you know this is talking about Alexander the Great, because it says Greece. All right. This is talking about the Greco Empire, the Greek Empire. All right. Now, for an example, now go to Second Maccabees. We're going to start Second Maccabees chapter 6. We'll go there. Well, actually, we can stay here for a second. 1 second. Let me see. Drop down. Actually, just continue reading. I guess we got time.
Verse 2. And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth.
Now remember, Alexander the Great, he was a powerful king. He was a war leader. All right, and he conquered the earth. Well, not conquered the earth, but he conquered a lot of territory during his time, during his rulership. That's why when you look into history, you see things like how he shot the noses off of the noses off of the Sphinx and things like that in Egypt, and destroyed some of the pyramids. He went all through parts of Africa. And of course, in order to get to parts of Africa, you got to go through Asia Minor. You got to go through the land of Israel to even get there if you're traveling by land, if it's not by sea. All right. Like he conquered many nations. He went to war. Our oppressor. Remember, Alexander the Great. He's an oppressor. He's just like your Donald Trumps, your Ronald Reagans, your Bill Clintons, you name them, right? He's our oppressor. All right. He knows how to go to war. For centuries and decades, you name it, millennia, our oppressor has always been the devil that the Bible speaks of. He was always about war. All right, he was always about slaughter. That's all our oppressor was about, and we're reading about it right now. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And went through to the ends of the earth.
And he went through the ends of the earth. Go ahead.
And
now Slacky. Now let me make a point. Now I'm gonna ask a question. Why does it say he's going to the ends of the earth? Why is it saying that? Can anybody give it a shot? Anybody online too? If you have a answer, right, to my question, just put it into the chat. Why is he saying? Right? Why is the Lord saying in this case right here? All right, he went to the ends of the earth. Anybody want to give it a shot? Go ahead, Al.
He went to every territory.
That is true, but there's a reason why they're saying ends of the earth. Anybody else want to give it a shot? Go ahead.
Territories that wasn't either discovered, or was it like taken over yet, or was it like even?
You're getting warmer out. You're getting warmer on why the Lord is saying ends of the earth. Anybody else want to give it a shot? Anybody online? Or should I give it to y'all for time's sake? Give it to you for time's sake? Okay. Our oppressor was the only people on the earth that believed that the earth was flat and it had an end. That's the reason why. Like, there's a reason why the Lord put these words here to help us understand, like, who we are talking about. Like, there's no argument who this man is. All right. Obviously, Alexander, and then you have Greece. That could only be one person recorded in history. and he's an oppressor. And then it's talking about to the ends of the earth. There is no such thing as the end of the earth. It just circles back. It's a sphere. There is no end. It's going round and round and around. But our oppressor believes in that type of philosophy. They taught that until, someone woke up and said, hey, let's travel around the world, and realized the earth is not as flat as they thought it was, and they didn't fall off the edge, and things like that. But go ahead out.
And took spoils of many nations.
And took what?
Spoils of many
Now
nations.
remember that word spoil. All right. And now allow me to give you like a jewel. The word spoil was never ever a good thing. All right. I know a lot of brothers and sisters talk about, oh, I want to spoil my kids, I'm gonna spoil my woman. Sisters be like, I'm gonna spoil my man, I'm gonna spoil my kids. You want to refrain from using that kind of terminology. Now, of course, as a brother, I understand where you're coming from. I understand. You just want to do good things for your children, you want to do good things for your man, you want to do good things for your woman. But just understand the word spoil never, and I mean never ever by definition, has anything good to it. All right, to spoil something always dealt with spoil. If you say, oh, that's spoiled, that means it's bad. That means it went bad. If that's spoiled, that means you went to war in order to achieve whatever you gained. That's a spoil. Spoil was always the loot that you took after war. And so our oppressor went to war with many nations and they collected the spoil. This is how they got rich during the times of the Greeks. That's why this was a part of the reasons why the Greeks were such a great nation and such a great empire, because our oppressor just went through land to land and land and oppressed it. There is not a piece of land anywhere on the earth that our oppressor has not touched and did not destroy. Anything he touches, he destroys. He completely ruins it. All right. There's two things that he does. He wants to destroy it, and if it's some new species, he wants to try to have relations with it. That's what he tries. That's our oppressor. That's his mindset. All right. What can I do with this little thing here, or whatever the case is, or how can I just destroy this entire nation, and how can I benefit from it? That's our mindset. That's our oppressor's mindset, Salaki. That's our oppressor's mindset. Continue.
And so much that the earth was quiet before him.
And the earth was what?
Quiet before
Does
him.
anybody know what that means? Go ahead.
Was that peace?
Now, I wouldn't say at peace. Go ahead.
They was at fear. The earth was quiet before him. He was scared.
That's better. That's what I'm looking for. Give the brother a hand. Most high Christ. It was at fear. All right. They didn't want to mess with it. He was the Grecians at this time. The Greeks, they were. I want to say the Grecians because if I'm not mistaken, by definition, Greek actually means something, and Grecian is actually where you is when you're actually actually from Greece. All right. The Grecians were someone that you did not want to mess with. You know what I'm saying? Like they were ruthless. All right, they were ruthless. Like they did not care. All right. How many of y'all remember the Hercules movie? Now I'm not talking about the one where not the one with Dwayne the Rock Johnson. I'm talking about I think it was Disney. It was a Disney movie. Y'all remember the old animated Hercules movie? Anybody familiar with that? Oh, I want y'all to say it again. Somewhat. Okay, no problem. You said Hachaanakah Ball, you said you kind of familiar with it? All right. Just give it just have that in the back of your minds real quick. And I'm gonna bring some things out about it. Just one thing. All right. Continue.
Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up.
So of course his heart, meaning his mind, was lifted up. All right. Our oppressor has a major ego. His pride is like above the stars, like it says in Obadiah. All right. It reaches upon the heavens. All right. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And he gathered a mighty strong host.
And he gathered what?
A mighty strong host.
And he gathered a mighty strong host. Does anybody know what a host is? Go ahead.
Army.
That is a army. Now, if you think about it in the Christian church, now, I don't know how long it's been since y'all been there. I know it's been some time for me. All right. I know it's been some time for some of y'all in here. So y'all remember them songs they used to sing talking about the Lord of hosts in the Christian church? There's plenty of songs out there talking about the Lord of hosts and God's army and things like that. No, right? You know what I'm saying?
That's right. This one.
Exactly. No one actually breaks that down. No one actually knows like that word host means army. No one actually put two to two together because of how soft Christianity is. Everyone just disregards that these certain words actually mean something. The God is actually Shemagabar. Wow, this brother holds that. Give me a man of war. That God is a man of war. Like this is in the Bible. The Lord, the Lord is about warfare. The Lord is about fighting. All right. And also, if you can, not to sidetrack off the lesson either, get I want you to hold that as well and get Ephesians when it talks about bringing the whole armor of God. All right. There's a reason why Paul was talking the way he was. All right. He was talking to a certain person. Like for an example, this isn't this these are men of the Lord. They're not soft. These are militant people. All right. And we're going to talk about the Maccabees and how militant we are and how we went to war. Like I want y'all to think about it. How many of y'all know about Nas? Y'all know about Nas? Rapper Nas? Not Lil Nas X. We ain't talking about him. We talking about the real Nas. Back in the day, Nas. Now, if anyone knows Hachaanakah, Nas is my favorite rapper. I love Nas. Now, I believe it's in Illmatic or As It Is Written. I forgot which one. One came out in '94. One came out in '96. But Nas made a song. It's an old album. All right. He made a song about a gun. Everyone knows about this, right? Everyone knows about how he made. Go ahead. You want to say? Yes. He said, "How you like me now? Yeah, I go blow. I made you take your first life. Yeah, everything. Listen, I'm not gonna sit here and rap it, but y'all get it, right? That whole entire song was about a gun, and he was explaining it was actually in reverse, and he was explaining his entire life how he was and being used like a gun. Only someone who would know about guns can understand that message and what it was talking about, like how the chamber is being loaded, the magazine, the clip, and all that. Like, and so for an example, Nas was talking to a certain crowd of people, just like Paul in Ephesians. He was writing to soldiers. You know what I'm saying? He was talking to people who were militant. Go ahead if you got the man of war one. You need something else?
No, I'm looking for my pen. That's
Okay. If you need one, I got one right here for you. Okay, okay, go ahead and read out.
The book of Exodus, chapter 15, verse 3. The Lord is a man of war.
Now it says the Lord is a man of war. Now, what does it mean to be a man of war? Some of y'all may not know this. Not anyone in here. We know what it means to be a man of war back here, but I'm talking to the Christians that may be joining in for us today, man. Y'all may not know what a man of war actually looks like, but allow me to break it down to you. A man of war is someone who knows about warfare, someone who knows about being a soldier, that knows about conflict, that knows how to fight. All right. And that's who the Lord is. A Lord is a man of war. God isn't who you think he is. All right. God isn't all loving like you may have been taught. God isn't soft and rainbows and rainbow coalition and holding hands at the table of brotherhood. That's not what God is. God is a man of war, like the brother just read. And was it Exodus 13 and 3, it said?
Like 15 and 3.
15 and 3. So like 15 and 3. Go ahead.
The Lord is his name.
And it said the what?
The Lord is his name.
Now spell that word.
Lord.
Now in the Hebrew, everybody, that's Yahweh. All right. When you see Lord in the Bible and it's completely capitalized, all right, with the Lord, that's Yahweh in the Hebrew. And it says, now I want you to say his name while saying that verse.
The Yahweh is a man of war.
Mm-hmm.
The Yahweh is his name.
Instead of saying the, you could just say Yahweh, by the way. You could take the the out.
Okay.
So one more time for the audience.
Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name.
Now I want y'all to understand this. That's in the Bible. I'm not making this up. So for any of y'all Christians out there that believe y'all Israelites and wearing fringes on y'all t-shirts and all this nonsense, Yahweh has always been the Lord's name. Not Yeshua, not Yahuwah, not whatever you think it is. It's Yahweh. All right? I want you to come to class and learn that ancient Hebrew. That's something important. All right. I think I would have never seen the day that I would not be teaching a Hebrew class, but that day has come. Them brothers are doing an excellent job teaching that Hebrew. Officer Mataza and Officer Yagadar, give them brothers a hand real quick. Most High in Christ, they're doing real job teaching that Hebrew class. All right. Let's see. Across the Paul. Go ahead and continue reading.
You want to let the Maccabees or
Yeah, Maccabees. And you must got Ephesians for me. Well, goddamn, brother. Okay, I see you. All right, go ahead and read the Ephesians.
Okay, I don't know you want me to start, but I got Ephesians 6, verse 10.
I think that may be. Go ahead and read it.
Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord
Mm-hmm.
and in the power of his might.
Go ahead.
Verse 11. Put on the whole armor of God.
I think that's exactly where I need to be. Let me get there with you too as well. Yeah, I want you to start. Yeah, I want you to start exactly there. So verse 11. Say that one more time.
Ephesians 6, verse 11. Put on the whole armor of power.
So now it says, put on the whole armor of God or power. You could say God in this context for right now, for audience sake. But that's why. So put on the whole armor of God. Now, does anybody know what armor is? Anybody? Don't all answer at once. Go ahead. Y'all can raise your hand and I can choose y'all. I want y'all to say it. Go ahead, sis.
Like a suit, not a suit, but like for war.
Exactly. It's something that you would wear for war. All right. Now remember, I was breaking this down before. Like I said, remember how Nas had a whole entire song about a gun. All right, and it was in reference because he was speaking to a certain crowd. Like we want to understand this. Like Paul didn't just say this for no reason at all. He had to know about what armor is used for, and once you start reading it, you're going to realize it. 1 second. Let's see what this brother may need. Give me 1 second, Akim, and walk in. Shalom, Lord of Christ out. Everything to wild? What's going on? Come. Go ahead and continue reading to lock it.
Verse 11, put on the whole armor of God.
Now put on the whole armor of God. Now, like I was saying, Paul is talking to a specific audience. Now, of course, if you know anything about the letters of Paul, he's writing to the schools. He's writing to the saints, which are Israelites. All right? Go ahead.
That you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil.
That you may be able to do what?
Stand against the wiles of the devil.
Now, can anybody tell me what's wiles? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Shamaka Ball.
Like temptations, the traps,
You said traps is a good word.
the
Traps is a good word. Anybody else want to add to that? Sis? Okay, Con. It is traps, but also skillful. Skillful in deceiving. All right, being skillful in deceiving and trapping. That's wiles. And so now, what does it mean to stand against? What does it mean to stand against? Go ahead, Shamaka Ball.
stand against me, like to not be with it, or to disregard it, to not be for it
I can take that.
as defense.
You said what?
Like, as defense.
That's the word I want to. That's the word I want to hear. To stand against something is to defend yourself from it. All right. You want to defend yourself from this kind of deceiving. You want to defend yourself from this kind of wiles, from this kind of trap. Now, allow me to explain this because I'm gonna go back to the Maccabees, and all of this is going to make sense. All right. Continue reading now. Actually, say start that from that ye may be able to stand against.
That ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil.
And now, obviously, what does devil mean?
Deceiver.
Exactly. Devil means deceiver. All right. And of course, we know who the ultimate deceiver is, which is our oppressor. People like your Donald Trumps, your Ronald Reagans, your Bill Clintons, your Hillary Clintons, Sarah Palins, you name them. Now, a deceiver can also be a Hamite. All right. It could be an African. It could be an East Indian. They're devils too. But the main devil, the ultimate deceiver over the entire earth, that goes to our oppressor. Go ahead, Al.
Verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood.
We wrestle against what?
For we wrestle not against flesh and blood.
Now remember, this fight is not necessarily about going against flesh and blood. The reason why, now it says flesh and blood for a reason, because the Bible is black. The Bible is Hispanic. The Bible is Native American, all right? We talk like this. We talk like, hey, that's my flesh and blood right there. That's my bone right there. That's my blood right there. Referring to what? That's my family, right? That's either my brother, my sister, my cousin, my daddy, my mama, you name it, right? My mother, whatever the case may be. That's how we talk. So this fight that we're fighting is not necessarily about going against your mother or going against your father, your brother, your sister. It's not necessarily about that. It's more than that. Go ahead. And that's what Paul is trying to explain. It's more than that. Go ahead, Al.
But against principalities.
Against what?
Principalities.
Does anybody know what principalities is? Anybody want to give it a shot? What's principalities? Shamagabal, go ahead. What's principalities?
Like standard, the rule.
Okay, you're close. You're close. Principalities across the Paul. Want to give it a shot?
Well, when I read this, not exactly, I don't know the exact definition, but I mean, I know it's, talking about.
You give me something close.
Yeah, like a certain order that's set up.
You're right there. You're right there. So principalities. So you guys were very close. All right. But principalities referring to who's in authority. So you guys were right there. But by definition, I'm just gonna give y'all a definition of it. It's referring to who's in authority, usually by a prince. That's why it says principalities, because a prince is usually in authority, and whatever standard that y'all were saying in orders that are set up, that's what it is. So you want to make sure you throw authority in there. You want to throw that word authority at times just for future references when you're talking about the Bible. That word authority means something. All right. And of course, there's scriptures in the Bible that literally says authority. Go ahead.
Against powers.
Against what?
Powers.
Now, of course, powers referring to what? Anybody know? What's referring to powers across the board?
Rulership.
Exactly, rulership. All right. Who's in power? Who's in charge? Like this is talking about authority. This is all talking about authority. So we're not actually fighting our flesh and blood. We're not actually fighting our family and our brother and our sister. But what we're really fighting is the principalities. What we're really fighting is the authority and the powers that are in charge. Do you guys know why we are fighting the powers that are in charge? Why are we fighting? Why are we not necessarily fighting our family, but we're really fighting our oppressor? Because that's what Paul is saying. We're fighting the authority. We're fighting the entire authority on the earth. We're fighting the authority that's in the black community, in our homes. That has, I almost gave y'all the answer. All right. So with that being said, why is Paul saying this? It seemed like Sister Anna may have the answer. You want to give it a shot?
Is that like how they do it?
Yeah, that is true. That too as well. But it's actually even, I wouldn't say even deeper than that, but something else. Go ahead. Why would we be fighting against principalities and these powers?
Because we supposed to be in power.
Well, that is true. That is true. We are supposed to be in power. I could be asking the question wrong in a way. Go ahead. Want to give it a shot? So let me ask the question one more time. What would be a reason why we have to go to war with these powers and principalities?
Because something is owned to us, something was taken from us.
That is true, but not quite. There's something more than that first. But that's true. But there's a process to why all of this is happening. Go ahead.
Well, we fighting against the oppression, the certain doctrines and
Okay, doctrines. Okay. And what is that called?
the
There's a certain word I would love to use.
uh,
Let's give the brother a chance, and I'll go to you.
yeah, we fighting against, that's why I was saying the rulership and there's been the wickedness that's been set up, the way that the oppressor do things.
You right there. Sister, now I want to give it a shot. There's a word that I want to use.
They're like the injustice that they.
I thought when you said in, I was like, she got it. But you're right. It is injustice what's being done to us, of course. But what he was saying, remember how he said doctrine? All right. There's something called influence. All right. There's something called influence. All right. Y'all were there though. Y'all were definitely there. All right. Y'all were definitely there. Our oppressor influenced us. Like these principalities and powers, they influenced us to be who we are. We were never drug dealers. We are not the first drug dealers. We were influenced to be drug dealers by our oppressor. Nobody wants to admit it. But we were not the first drug dealers. We were not the first OGs. We go around in Norfolk and Newport News and we got OGs, right? OG stands for what? Original gangster, right? That's what it stands for. That has now been labeled like a black term. The original gangster, Al Capone, a whole white dude. So what are we talking about here, right? The original gangster is talking about your Sopranos and your Godfathers and your Scarfaces, right? You guys get my point. And the Goodfellas and Casino, like your Robert De Niro's. Like that's who the original gangsters are. When the first, like when we use, like how we talk now, like when we get into these fights that we're really not supposed to be getting into because of all the conflicts and etc. We be like, hey yo, back in the day, we be like, hey, we gonna pop the trunk on somebody, right? I mean, y'all raise your hands. How many of y'all heard that term before? I'm gonna pop the trunk on somebody. That's not black culture. To pop the trunk on someone was a mafia term to get the guns. And then they would take you and put you in the trunk after they killed you and dropped you off in the water. They showed you in the movies, remember? Because that actually happened. That's not sci-fi. That's not a sci-fi movie. The Godfather is not a sci-fi movie. That's a documentary. Because that's exactly what happened. You can go to Philly, go to Jersey, go to New York, and they still exist. Now they just your bank owners. You know what I'm saying? Now they own your casinos in these areas. You know why? Because they sold us all the dope. And they gave us their culture to live by. And so they not OGs no more. Now we are. Like that's influence. Like our oppressor pushed coke and crack into our neighborhoods. That's not conspiracy theory. That's just straight conspiracy. That's what happened. They came out with it years ago. They put it in your face. Snowfall. How many of y'all know the movie with Denzel Washington? When it came to not Training Day, original. There we go. I think it was Original Gangster, right? What is it? Is it? Yeah, American Gangster. Slovakia, American Gangster. The water, American Gangster. Remember how the cops was talking to him, giving him the drugs, And then, he was doing what he was doing. He was a businessman doing exactly what our oppressor did. The first thing he did when he got the money, what did he do? I think
He gave out turkey.
he gave out turkeys. I think that is the first thing he did. What was the second thing he did? Of course, Paul. You remember? I'm trying to remember.
I think he paid off the police, like police force, like.
That may be the second thing he did, and I think the third thing was what? I think he got his mama a house.
Oh yeah.
He gave his mama a house. Everybody, Jake always give mama a house. Once they come into some money, whatever, they buy mommy a house. Nothing wrong with getting mommy a house, but that's what he did with all the drug money that he was involved in. That came from our oppressor. That was the influence, and that's something that we have to realize what happened. All right, this is the wiles of the devil. This is what we're actually fighting. Now, of course, there's other things that we're fighting besides the influences of. I only spoke about drug dealing first. Now, let's talk about other influences like the LGBTQIA community. That is a major influence when it comes into the Black community or the Hispanic or Native American community. These are influences. The reason why I'm bringing this out in this class, because when we go back to Maccabees, you're going to see this very same concept. You're going to see it. All right? The Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. You're going to see it, I promise you. And so that influence of the alternative community is throughout our families, throughout our neighborhoods, throughout our cities, is actually attacking our school system. It's getting to the point where you don't even want to put your sons and daughters in school anymore because of how heavy of an influence that is. This is what we're actually fighting. The influences that our oppressor gave us, which y'all said, the brother said doctrines, all right? And then through those influences is how injustice has been created. Now, because we do these things that our oppressor gave us, now they create laws. All right, actually, Shemagabar, Baba Kushab, I got to get back to Maccabees. Like, it's been a long time since I taught. So, like, I got to get into the Feast of Dedication. So, like, go to Daniel chapter 8, verse 26. All right, they create policies and they create let me say that word right, legislation. All right, in order to oppress us, and they could not do this unless they influenced us or they indoctrinated us in a certain philosophy. And this is what Paul is trying to teach us to defend ourselves from. Go ahead. For across the bar.
Come. Against the rulers of the darkness of this world.
The darkness of this world. Because this is darkness. Think about how many of y'all know about Star Wars? Think about them Sith Lords and the dark side and all this other type of stuff. Like, this is our oppressor. All right? That's our oppressor. They want to do everything that's evil. Anything that you think is good, if it comes from them, they're going to turn it into evil. And it's just evil at the end of the day. They want to do like this alternative lifestyle, the drug culture, when it comes to pedophilia, you name it. Everything that they do is evil. Everything they taught us is absolute evil. I try to tell brothers and sisters every day, there's no good in Christianity. There's no good in Islam. There's no good in Judaism. There's no good because it comes from our oppressor. It comes from heathens that just want to do what they want to do. All right? That's literally our oppressor's philosophy. That's actually the philosophy of these other heathens. They want to do what they want to do. That's why when you go into history, which we're about to go into, like when it comes to Greeks and the Romans and the Persians, they have gods to justify the things that they want to do. There's a God. If you want to be attracted, there's kids around. If you want to be attracted to children, there's a God for that. It was a God called Pan. That's where Peter Pan comes from. That's why Peter Pan was with the whistle and all the kids was following him. That's a God that believed in being able to have relations with children. How many of y'all knew that? Am I telling y'all something new? Oh, Salakia. So Salakia. That's where that comes from. The God Pan. Look it up. It's right there, and you'll see. It looks like Peter Pan, and he's with That's why R. Kelly even called himself. It's like that's why he called himself the Piper and things like that. And now you see the spirit of the Piper, of him being with underage daughters, underage sisters. That's the spirit of our oppressor. This is the kind of influences that we need to fight and be able to defend ourselves from. Go ahead.
against spiritual wickedness in high places.
In those high places, this is where it's coming from. So really, it's not that your brother didn't become wicked overnight. You know what I'm saying? Like your father, your mother, your sister, she didn't just become evil overnight. She was influenced to be who she is today. He was influenced to be who he is today. That's who we're fighting against, and that's what Paul is trying to explain. Go ahead.
Verse 13. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God.
So now take on the whole armor of God. Now, Paul later on is going to break down this entire armor of God. He's going to break it down. So he wants you to take all of it, and he's going to break down what each armor is. You got that? Hold on. Get that Daniel for me.
On time. The book of Daniel, chapter 8, verse 26. And the vision of the evening.
Go to 20. I think it's 25. I always say this wrong. It's probably 20. Daniel chapter 8, verse 25.
On time, chapter.
Did they say through his policy?
On time.
That's the one I want. Salaki.
Daniel chapter 8, verse 25. And through his policy.
Now it says through his policy. Policy is legislation. Policy is rules, right? And laws that you have to pass, that you have to implement, right? Go ahead.
Also, he shall cause craft to prosper.
That craft is referring to what? That evil. All right. That's the wiles to prosper. So through the legislation he passes, now evil is going to be prosperous. All right. It says craft shall prosper, right? Like this is what's going to prosper. Guess what? When Barack Obama was president, that was the black man's God. Barack Obama was the black man's savior. When Barack Obama, I think his term was what, from 2008 to whatever the case may be. That was like oh my God, we finally have a quote unquote black president. Well, guess what? He caused crafts to prosper. All right. Even an African like him was influenced by our oppressor. All right. Listen, y'all Africans out there, y'all got a white man problem too. I hear y'all. Y'all, but that's just y'all fight. I'm worried about, the brothers and sisters in Norfolk and Newport News. Y'all can worry about your people in Nigeria, Algeria, and Ghana. Y'all do have an oppressor problem. I feel for you. Enjoy. But I got to worry about my people. But go ahead. So Barack Obama, he caused craft to prosper. All right. He was directly involved in passing laws that the LGBTQIA plus community, or that alternative style community, could prosper. Now that kind of marriage, which is not even marriage at all, is now legal. And now they're prosperous. Some places, even in Norfolk, actually think about it. Y'all from Norfolk, y'all from this area, at one point in time, this is what I learned. At one point in time, Ghent was a black area. It was all black. It was a historical black area, very prosperous with black businesses. Now, when you walk into Ghent in Norfolk, what is it? Gentrified. It's gentrified, and not any kind of gentrification, but what kind of gentrification? That alternative lifestyle gentrification. Go down Ghent, all you see is nothing but rainbow flags and rainbow businesses. You understand? Like this right here is what Daniel's talking about. Through their policy, they create craft. We're going to drop that from right there. I only wanted that part. I don't want to go too much into that. All right. Continue reading with actually go back to Maccabees. Still hold Ephesians and continue reading with Maccabees before we go back to Ephesians. All right. So we can get back to the Feast of Dedication real quick.
Verse 4. And he gathered a mighty strong host.
Now this is talking about Alexander the Great, a mighty strong host. Remember, he was about going to war. This is what our oppressor is about as well, going to war. While the Christian church is teaching you to be pacified and teaching you to turn the other cheek, all right, and all this nonsense and come together at the table of brotherhood that Martin Luther King, all right, pushed and taught. Our oppressor was always about warfare and going to war and setting up armies. Go ahead.
And ruled over countries and nations.
Go ahead.
And kings who became tributaries unto him.
It said what? What?
Tributary.
Anybody know what a tributary is? Shema Gabar, what's a tributary?
Of course, from scripture, I'm thinking, I'm using my context clues, mean like followers of him. There was I guess, followers of him. I know you give a tribute to something, you might pay homage to something, trying to remember something.
That's correct. You're wrong. That's correct. That's along the lines that I need. Paying tribute. A tributary is someone paying tribute, giving honor, maybe even paying taxes or money to someone, thing like that. That's what paying tribute is. That's what America is doing right now. They're only following their father's footsteps. That's all they're doing. They're following the footsteps of their forefathers. They're only doing what they know. They're not doing anything that, this can't, listen, if you're so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American, don't be so surprised, all right, when these things are happening right in front of your face. They're only doing what they know. You were in grade school since 5 years old, and they told you this is what they do. You take history class. I think you start history, in like the second grade? All the way to high school. And if you go higher than that, you go to college, and they teach you even more of their history. It's right there in front of you. They're only telling you what they know. They made everyone pay tribute to them. Guess what? Guess what? That's the same concept of America spreading democracy. That's democracy right there. That's why America is going through lands and nations and kings. Listen, there's a heathen. I'm not sure what country he came from. What country did I think his name is Gaddafi? What country did Gaddafi come from? Anybody online too? You can let me know. What country did Gaddafi come from? I think it's some African country, right? Was it? I think it was Egypt. I think it was Egypt. He was going to change Egypt around for his people, like dead ass change things around for his people. He's going to change the currency to actually back up the gold that they had and the diamonds and the jewels, and he was going to create their own currency that was outside of the Federal Reserve. That's not conspiracy theory. That's just actual conspiracy. He was actually doing something great for his people, but America wanted to spread democracy, and so they got him out of there. That's why Gaddafi dead right now. Like, this is what the Greeks did. All right. I may be jumping ahead because I think this very same concept could be in another chapter too. But continue reading, Bubba Kushab.
Verse 5. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die.
So eventually, of course, everyone has to taste death, even us, right? So go ahead.
Verse 6. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive.
Just like any good king, ruler, he's going to pass down his inheritance. He's just not going to allow it to go to waste. All right. Something that these laws, statutes, and commandments in the Bible teach us to do. Like, that's what makes the Christian church so evil. The Christian church, in exchange to eat pork for the rest of their lives, and to eat shrimp for the rest of their lives, all right, and to have relations with whoever they want to have relations with, all right, in exchange for that, they got rid of the laws that was going to pass down inheritance to us, that was going to keep us lands, you understand, and maybe houses and whatever was supposed to be passed down to us. They forfeited that, all right. Christians, all right, in exchange for whatever they wanted, they forfeited all of that in exchange, all right, and they forfeited like an economic establishment for the Black community. Everyone knows, or maybe if you didn't know, but in the Bible, when it talks about Libya, it was Libya. Also, Mataza said Libya, the water is Libya. All right, and so where was I when it came to? Oh yeah, in the law, all right. There's laws in the Bible that talks about how we are supposed to economically deal with each other. Did anybody know that? Did anybody know that in the law, right? There are laws in the Bible that teach us how to economically deal with each other. Do you know how many scammers we got in the Black community? Everybody a scammer now. That's like maybe I should be a scammer at this point. They making so much goddamn money, right? No, I'm just kidding. But here, listen, we got scammers out there, all kinds of stuff. Brothers stealing from other brothers, scamming and scamming from sisters. It's terrible, right? That's unlawful. Like, there were laws in the Bible that taught us how to economically deal with each other and how we're to treat with each other. How many? Now, of course, There are laws in the Bible that talks about loans, like what loan you can take and what loan you cannot take, who and what, and if you do give a loan, right? How many okay, if you get a loan, there's something that's called interest, right?
Yeah.
Right, it's interest. Now, what's the lowest interest rate you can get in America? Does anybody know? Sister?
Mm,
What's the lowest interest rate you can get in America? The brother know, young man? What's the youngest interest rate you can get? Nope. No, you don't know. Don't sweat. Don't sweat. What about you, Shemaka? You know?
But I don't know. I'm saying somebody be saying the number just
Okay.
7. I don't know.
Okay. What about you, Akosaba? Do you know?
No,
What?
I want to say 14%.
14%? Okay. That was a good guess. All right. Allow me to tell you, this is gonna blow your mind. This is gonna blow your mind. The lowest interest rate you can get in America is 0.0% APR.
I'm gonna say 1.
You would have said one.
Yeah.
A lot of brothers and sisters may have said one. It's 0.0% APR. Now, some commercials actually show it. Officer Mataza Alcaraz says 0%. Right? It's 0%. 0.0% APR. And they'll help, if you want a new Dodge Charger today, they tell you it's 0.0%, maybe to 5.62%. Now, of course, they're not going to put the 15% for the brothers and sisters or people who have bad credit. But that percentage of APR is there when you take out your loan. But they're going to advertise 0.0 to like 5.6%. Well, there's a reason why there's that 0.0, because they took from our records that if you're going to give a loan out to your own people, you can't charge usury, which is you can't charge interest. Imagine interest-free loans. I just solved 80% of y'all problems in the black community. Just imagine. Do you know how much interest loans are and how much debt we're in? Listen, black people, we have college degrees and we went to college. That's a loan with interest. We have cars. We're not spending $10,000, $23,000 on cars. If y'all do, give me some money. Goddamn. But here's the thing: you take out a loan for it, right? That's an APR. You understand? That's an interest rate. There's so many things. Even if you need like $1,000 just for a quick whatever, APR. Those are interest rates. A lot of us are in debt. The black community, we have accumulated so much debt. Debt is one of our main issues when it comes our financial burdens within the black community. Well, God gave us a solution. If we had our own resources and we had our own banks like we were supposed to establish, we would have 0.0% APRs every time. And then the law also says anyone outside of Israel, you can charge whatever you want to charge when it comes to interest rates. That's what it says in the Bible. Guess what? Those 5.6 APRs and those 15% APRs, those are for you. Because you're not white. You're not Jewish. You're not Italian. You understand? Y'all get it? Like, that's oppression. That's why it says through their policy they create craft. They cause craft to prosper. Continue out.
Verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died.
Right. So he passed away. Devil died. Slacking. He's no longer living, so I don't get flagged. Can't use the word DIE anymore. This new generation is now soft and getting offended of everything. But go ahead, Al.
Verse 8. And his servants bear rule everyone in his place.
And it said what?
His servants bear rule everyone in his place.
So now the servants that were under him, now they're in rulership. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth.
So now they put crowns upon themselves, made themselves rulers, princes, etc., etc., and now they're ruling these kingdoms that Alexander the Great once had. So that's why there's if you noticed at one point in time, well, you can go actually anywhere on the earth right now for the most part, and you can see Greece/Rome influence. You can see certain structures that are built in that area and you know that, hey, that's not an African structure. That looks more Roman, or that looks more Greece, right? That's why, because he set up kings after him and princes and rulers, and they were abroad. All right, that's why when you, for the most part, in the Europe area, you would see that, and then parts of the Middle East, like Turkey and places like that. But go ahead.
Verse 10, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes,
There you go.
son of Antiochus the king.
So now out of them came a wicked root, meaning out of this entire tree, this was the most wicked root of it all. At the bottom, remember the roots are like what? The bottom of the tree, right? And so this, out of everything that was planted, this one root, all right, it was wicked. It was horrible, completely evil. They were already evil as it is, all right? But this one right here, ooh-wee, all right? Antiochus, ooh-wee. Go ahead.
Who had been in hostage at Rome,
Go ahead.
and he reigned in the 137th year.
It said what?
In the 137th year
So 137. Go ahead.
of the kingdom of the Greeks.
Now this was the kingdom of the Greeks. This is talking about that Greek empire, that Grecian empire. Go ahead.
Verse 11. And those days went there out of Israel wicked men.
Now here we go. Here we go. This is, history repeats itself, right? If you don't know nothing. All right. Wicked men out of Israel. Here we are. We know who wicked men of Israel are. Men that don't of God. Ones who want to do whatever they want to do. Give themselves whatever they want. Y'all get my point. I'm trying to use my vocabulary correctly. All right. So we don't get flagged. I want to say more, but I cannot. Go ahead.
Who persuaded many.
Who persuaded what?
Many.
Now here's the thing. When you persuade someone, okay, what's synonymous with persuasion? Read my thoughts, read my mind. What's synonymous with persuasion? Shamakabo. La'ah. Across the bar.
Influence.
There we go. He got it. Were you gonna say the same
I'm
thing?
gonna say convinced.
You're gonna say convinced? I need y'all to be with me here. Yeah, I need y'all to be with me, but most I in Christ. You guys are right. Persuasion is convincing, but I want you to understand this is influence. This is all a part of the influence that I was telling y'all about. Wicked men came out of Israel. They were evil. They didn't want to keep the laws of God. They didn't want to do anything that God said for us to do. All right. And then they persuaded many like them. That's an influence. They influenced other Israelites to be just like them. Those are your Christian pastors. Christian pastors, and listen, Officer Mataza was right with me. He said at 8:09 p.m. He said influence. Listen. This brother's paying attention in class tonight. So now here we go. All right. These Christian pastors influenced us. All right, to be who we are today. Our oppressor used the Christian church to influence us to be who we are today. And we're not supposed to be who we are right now, referring to the evil that we're doing. What we're supposed to be doing is what we're doing right now in this class, learning the laws of God, learning about the Feast of Dedication, Hanukkah. That's what we're supposed to be doing. There's other brothers and sisters out there, they don't know nothing about this. They just got finished celebrating Thanksgiving, which was a day about slaughter of 700 Pequot Native Americans. And also after that, they took the women of the natives and the children of the natives and burnt them down in their houses. That's what they did. That's the Thanksgiving celebration. That's what our people just got finished celebrating. All right? Because that's what they were influenced to celebrate. The only reason why our people are celebrating Thanksgiving because they were influenced to do so. You understand? Go ahead.
Saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen.
Make a what?
A covenant.
Make a covenant meaning what? That's an agreement. And it says with who?
The heathen.
That's referring to our oppressor. Martin Luther King made a covenant with the heathen. These pastors and these bishops and these ministers and these deacons, they made a covenant with the heathen, with our oppressor, because they were evil, because they did not want to do what God said to do. And even they themselves been influenced by our oppressor to make this very decision. And I pray y'all understand, referring to these pastors. All right, they were influenced as well to be the pastors that they are right now. That started since slavery. And that influence at that time, it was lynching. All right, that was the influence. It's either you were going to do it or die, or unalive, or not live. All right, you were going to get burnt alive on the stake. How many of you knew that our oppressor that came into South America, Central America, our Latino brothers, right, our Hispanic brothers, they were tortured. They were burnt alive at the stake by Catholic priests, by the conquistadors, by the Jesuits, by the Puritans, by the Portuguese, by the Spaniards. They came into South and Central America and burnt our people alive. And that's why they're good Catholics today and good Christians today. That's a hell of an influence, is it not? That's a hell of an influence. An influence is not just a philosophy. You can be influenced by getting an ultimatum. You understand? It's either you do this or you're no longer going to live. Now, if you're strong enough, you'll die for the cause. Shemaiah, give me 2 Maccabees chapter 7. Hopefully I can get to that story tonight. I'm going to try to get as much as I can. All right? I'm going to get as much as I can. Continue reading Course of our biblical shot.
Let us, okay, Slakia.
Mm-hmm.
Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us.
Mm-hmm.
For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
Oh my God. It says, since we departed from them, we had much sorrow. Now, what is he referring to? What heathen did we depart from at this time? What is this wicked Israelite referring to? Shema Gabal. Who did we depart from?
Sorry, can you repeat that question? I was getting.
Oh yeah, no sweat, no sweat. Read that one part one more time for Akosapar so he can hear it.
Okay.
Biblical shot, Salaki.
For since we departed from them,
Mm-hmm.
we have had much sorrow.
So now remember, they're talking about making a covenant with the heathen, because since we departed from them, we had much sorrow. Who did we just depart from?
Israel.
No, we didn't depart from Israel. Remember, this is the heathen.
The Greeks.
Not the Greeks, because that's who's in power now. But you're close. Across the park. Want to give it a shot?
They had to be the Persian Medes.
It had to be the Persian and Medes. There you go. The Persian and Medes. Remember, Daniel was also in captivity with the Persian and Medes. After the Persian and Medes Empire, then the Greek Empire came. And then after that, the Rome. All right, just to keep y'all in order. All right, it goes Egypt, Babylon. Egypt, I believe Assyria, Babylon, then Persian and Medes and Greek. I could have, I think, Assyria and Babylon flip-flopped. But for sure, Persian and Medes and Greek and Rome. Okay? Go ahead.
Verse 12. So this device pleased them well.
Now, this device pleased as well. Now, they're saying, since we've been separated from them, we have much sorrow. That's why I skipped ahead naturally, because I kind of know the scripture. This is why I said they were influenced already. We were already, listen, the heathen are heathen. They may be a different nationality or ethnic group, but heathens are heathen. They don't obey God. They still want things the same as what the Greeks wanted. They wanted to have relations with children, eat pork, shrimp, lobster, men having relations with men, women having relations with women, just unaliving each other for no reason. That alternative lifestyle of living. Like, this is what the heathens have always practiced: eating raw meats, having relations with a woman on her cycle, all this, whatever the hell it is. All right, this is what the heathen have done. They didn't care about what they put in their body. All right, they didn't care what they did. They just wanted. They did everything that made them feel good, and this is what these wicked men were used to. That was their influence. And so, of course, they thought, okay, we've been in so much pain because we didn't have this influence. Somebody break that down. What is that called? What is it called when you have pain and sorrow for something that you used to do?
Depression.
Wait a minute. Raise your hand, but go ahead.
Depression.
That's that's good, but like across the bar, want to give it a shot?
Pain and sorrow for something that you used to do.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't call it trauma
Goddamn.
at all.
Okay. I mean, but that could be a reason sometimes, depending on the context. Sister, you want to give it a shot before I go back online? I'll give you one more shot.
Maybe you was disappointed in yourself that you was doing something in your past.
I mean, this is what you're saying is right. That is a process of what I'm referring to. That does happen depending on the context. Shemai Gabar, want to give it a shot? You're not wrong. Go ahead.
Like, I would say something about her when I was being ashamed.
Okay. So when I ask like, what is the process of being in pain and sorrow for something that you used to do, right? Like, okay.
Oh, I see the way you
Go ahead.
for being in pain for something repentance.
That is the process. That is true.
Right.
That is true. All right. I could be asking the question wrong too, but Officer Mataza Akara, of course, he got the answer right. This is something called a withdrawal.
Oh.
All right. Salakia, this is something called a withdrawal. Remember, this is what our people need to understand. You're going to have to go through pain in order to serve the Lord. You're going to have to go through sorrow in order to serve the Lord. You may not be able to smoke cigarettes anymore, and you're not going to have that nicotine anymore, and it's going to hurt. You understand? It's going to cause pain. It's going to cause sleepless nights. It's called withdrawal. But this is what's mandatory. This is what's needed in order for you to serve the Lord. This is what's required of you. Pain is required. Everybody understands it, right? Pain is required in order to serve the Lord. You understand that? You understand that, Shamaka Ball? You understand that, Costa Ball? Yeah, I know. Yeah, sis. You understand that, sis? It requires pain to serve the Lord. And allow me to use the sister as an example, right? She has a son. All right. Pain was required to bring this young man into the earth, and that was of the
From the womb to my own derogatory.
but go ahead. Of the
From the pain of the will.
God damn it, y'all. Sister. Almost, y'all.
The labor.
God damn. Damn. Of the Lord. It was of the Lord. Now y'all were 12. It's okay. It's of the Lord. That pain is of the Lord. She went through the pain and the suffering that was required in order for her to give birth to this young man right here. And that pain was of the Lord. Genesis chapter 3 and 16. You understand? I pray y'all understand. Like that pain is of the Lord. Go ahead, continue reading that.
But Salaki.
Go ahead, you had a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because I see this when I was looking through this. I was looking at it as well. First of all, I see they talking about the heathen as a whole because it didn't really specify
right
which heathen. So they just heathen is a heathen.
That's true.
From the way the scripture, saying. Then second, I see the way they go back. Remember when we came out of Egypt?
Correct.
We wanted to go back.
Yes.
The flesh pots and
whatever
it was. We was, I related, sometimes.
God.
A lot of us can't really hold on because you miss, the comfort of being, a part of the world or being a part of the, you've been attached to the heathen so long that
exactly
you coming from part of that, like you said, you bring a part of a type of a withdrawal,
right?
From that,
exactly.
And a lot of times you want to go back to get that fix, to get that high again,
And of course, this is the same thing. Now, give the brother a hand. I was real wild, right? That is the same thing that happened when we left Egypt. That's why the Lord kept us in the wilderness for 40 years. All right. And then that generation had to die out because they wanted to go back to Egypt. Now, also to expound on what you're saying too as well, even though it may, now of course, heathen can be heathen. Now, let's say you just took this scripture by itself. Of course, you can break down heathen as any other nation of people, but also just to give it more context, it is for sure referring to the captivities that we just left. And of course, the most recent one was the Persians. So let's say if you was like in a let's say like if you was in a debate type deal, if someone tried to say like, hey, this is talking about this is talking about the Egyptians heathen, by by default that can't be true, right? Because what we just left in verse one, it just referred to Alexander the Great murking the Persian and Medes Darius, right? And that was the previous. So just keep that in mind, so you can also like be very fluid, all right, when it comes to even teaching and speaking about the Bible too as well. So even though you can say all, because what you said was right too, by the way, you can use all heathens or heathens, all right. You can say that because heathens are heathens, but in particular, they're withdrawing from the Persian Medes. Now you can take this and say, if we did the very same thing, we're withdrawing from America. In order to be in this truth, we have a withdrawal from the influence that America put on us, that our oppressor put on us. And that's the nicotine, the black and milds, the rellos, the weed, the drugs, that explicit content. I get so many counsels and calls about that damn explicit content and OnlyFans. It's on that's the new crack. Brothers is they can't get enough of it. You know what I'm saying? I hear brothers all in the world. I'm like, I don't know, man. I just like get you a real woman out. Just get you a real woman out. It's okay. All right. That's the withdrawal that you're taking. All right. From those are the influences. And that's what our oppressor put out. But go ahead, I'll continue.
Verse 12. So this device pleased them well.
Now, of course, this device, because this is what's going to be used. All right. This device referring to what? The covenant that they're going to make with our oppressor, the heathen. In this case, all right, or our oppressor referring to the Greeks at this point. All right, because I'm trying to make a covenant with the Greeks. All right. This is a device. That's referring to the covenant, that agreement. All right. That's why in our law it states that we're supposed to make no covenants with them. That's what it states. We're not supposed to do nothing like that. But go ahead.
Verse 13. Then certain of the people were so forward herein.
Go ahead.
That they went to the king.
That they went to the king. So now they were so forward with it, they had to go to the king about it. Go ahead.
Who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen.
Gave them the what?
License to do after the ordinances of the heathen.
Now they gave them permission. They gave them authority. They gave them legislation in order to do, right, the ordinances, meaning referring to like the rules and the laws of the heathen. Now in this case, the heathen is referring to what? Across the bar? This heathen in this case is referring to the Greeks, Most High in Christ. All right, go ahead.
Verse 14. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem.
It says what?
Whereupon they built a place of exercise.
A place of exercise in Jerusalem. Does anybody know what a place of exercise would be? All right. Of course, it's like Hachaanakah bar. You try it.
A place of exercise.
Mm-hmm.
A place of exercise being like a place where they can work on exercise. You exercise, okay, so where they get in shape and
that's a good one. What else? Across the park, what's another place of exercise would be? Right, the gym.
Yeah.
All right. What else? Sis, what could be another place of exercise?
Like sports or something?
Give her a hand. Sports, another place of exercise. If you noticed in the Greek Empire, in the Roman Empire, they had something called the Colosseum, or like an arena, right? And that was a place of exercise. And you would have all kinds of stuff in it. Now remember, I want you to think back to the movie Hercules, if y'all kind of remember, right? I'm talking about the animated one, right? When you think about it, all right, I don't know if you remember the one scene when you had the Hercules, which was a quote unquote demigod according to the culture. He was in the Colosseum kind of arena area when Hades came through, and he was, lifting and doing all kinds of weights and stuff. All right, it's an old movie. I think it came out in the 90s. It's an animated series. All right. They were teaching you about their culture. Of course, they were targeting kids to teach them about Greek mythology. All right, that was their purpose. All right, if you go into history, the actual Colosseum, right, in Rome, all right, that was a place of exercise. All right. Eventually, I may not be able to get that today, but in a timely fashion, eventually the Greeks got conquered by the Romans. That's also stated in Maccabees. All right. I may not be able to get to it today, possibly, but the way we ended up in Roman captivity after the Greek captivity, because we ended up making another covenant with the Romans in order to go to war with the Greeks and win. That's how we ended up in Roman captivity. That's also, I think, in somewhere in Second Maccabees. All right, we may not be able to get to that today, but just know that's definitely in there. It talks about how there was a covenant with Rome, and they would assist in certain ways, um, and just to help out. All right, just like making allies with someone, but by making those allies with that country, it caused us to eventually end up in captivity with the Romans. We didn't really see real freedom. You know what I'm saying? All right, when it came to the Israelites. But go ahead. Oh, you had a question? Go ahead.
So it'd be a stretch to say sports came from Greeks. That'd be a stretch.
It's not. It's not a stretch. All right. The place of sport, like those arena. That's why, like in America, everything is in an arena. It's called an arena or stadium. It's set up the same way. Hockey, baseball, football. Some football fields are turned into baseball fields. It's the same thing. All right. All that is there. Now, of course, being athletic and stuff like that, that's referring to you being in shape. But sports itself and those kind of things, like in that context of in a big arena, like a big place of exercise, yeah, that's their culture. That's what they created. Go ahead.
And before,
Not that it's unlawful, by the way, to be in these things, but that's what they just created and made billions of dollars off of it. But go ahead.
so I think also too, you said, what you said before, like the Romans, someone made a covenant with the Romans. Is that when, I may be saying his name wrong, Mattathias?
I would have to double check out.
When, I think when one of the messengers came and tried to convert the Jews into their influence.
Possibly, I would have to. I would actually have to read it. That sounds right.
Okay.
That does sound right because Matthias does sound familiar.
Yeah.
All right, and then I think it was like his brother too as well at that time before he may have been unalive. But say that one more time.
Yes, Matthias was the father.
Right, Matthias was the father.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it just sounds familiar, but I would have to double check. But for sure, the concept of making that agreement with Rome, that existed in Maccabees. It states that, and that's how we eventually ended up. That's why once the Maccabees ended, that's why you see Matthew 1:1, and then it starts talking about the genealogy of Christ, and then eventually within the New Testament, it talks about us being under Caesar. Whatever you give to Caesar, give to Caesar. That's the Roman Empire, right? Like these leaders existed. Like these records are not, like everyone says, oh, the Bible's not real. How can we prove the Bible's not real? There's historic figures throughout the Bible that you can find in the actual history books that you've learned since the 6th grade. I learned about Julius Caesar, I think, in the 6th or 7th grade. They always, and they taught it to us, I think, in a Shakespeare way. I think it was when I think it was like with Brutus stabbing, that whole thing. All right, it was a play that Shakespeare did. Something like that. The Odyssey too is one of them. The Odyssey teaches you about the Greek Empire and teaches you about the different gods and goddesses and things like that, and how fighting the Titans, like it's right there in front of us. It's right there. History is right there. And these very same things and accounts in their books is also in the Bible. So when people say, oh, the Bible's not real, they really just never read the Bible before. And the reason why they never read the Bible, because it depends on their situation, but for the most part, I can tell you somewhere down the line, the Christian church hurt them in some way, form, or fashion. You know what I'm saying? It scarred them for whatever reason it may be. Or it just didn't resonate well in their spirit because maybe they just know that like this just can't be right. And it's true. The Christianity itself is just not right, even though the Bible itself is real. You feel me? You understand? But go ahead, continue reading now.
I was gonna say.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was
How you talking about?
I was gonna say that 'cause my favorite part was when one of the Jews wanted to convert,
Mhm.
and I think Matthias, he was like, "What?" Cut his neck off, killed him and the messenger right there.
Okay, yeah, Con, that's another event too as well that has happened. Like all of this is also, and give the brother a hand. That's real to because all of these events is a part of why we do the feast of dedication, or what we know as Hachaanakah, all right, or Hanukkah that we know as today. But go ahead. Let me see if I can I got 30 minutes left. I might have to go a little bit over class. All right, just a little bit because I want to get to that verse 7, and I got to go back to Ephesians, right? Y'all still got Ephesians for me? I'm gonna have to go back to Ephesians eventually, but go ahead, continue reading.
Who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. Salaki, verse 14. No, Salaki, verse 15.
Mm-hmm.
And made themselves uncircumcised.
And made themselves what?
Uncircumcised.
Now, so imagine this. We had laws and rules and regulations that we're supposed to be circumcised. Now, does anybody know what it means to be circumcised? Shemakabal. And also Mataza Karate say gladiators and the Coliseum. That brother was right. But go ahead.
Like physically, right, for a man, physically.
Yeah, physically.
Kind of like the foreskin of
Okay. All right, right. So the man's, personal area. All right, try to be more, you too out. All right, it's we got kids, and we're not trying to get flagged or whatever, even though that is a technical term, medical. Okay, so the man's personal area is actually the foreskin of the man's area is cut, right? And that's when you become circumcised. So now just imagine this. We've been adults, we've grown men, 20, 30, 40, 50 in our primes and all this type of stuff, and we've already been circumcised. Now, how do you uncircumcise someone? How could you do it? Physically. How could you do it? How could you physically uncircumcise someone? I know you guys are looking at me like I got 8 heads, right? Because it's crazy, right? So this is how you know this is something spiritual, right? This right here, this verse is something spiritual. It's not talking about physical uncircumcision, right? It's referring to, right, spiritual uncircumcision, which means there's a spiritual circumcision. Like this is in the Old Testament. This is a part of the Old Testament, right? I want you to understand that because when Christ and Paul and Peter came on the scene and things like that, right? They would say things like this. And because of our oppressor not knowing the Bible and they're not spiritual, they took it literal. But these things that were said in the New Testament was also said in the Old. There was a way to be uncircumcised spiritually and not just physically. Because there's no way to physically uncircumcise anybody. You guys get my point. So I just want you guys to understand that. I'm sure y'all knew, but I just want to put that out there. We need more brothers and sisters out there learning today. Go ahead, Al.
Made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the Holy Covenant.
Now, this is how you become uncircumcised. It's a good precept to teach a person how to be uncircumcised, is to forsake the Holy Covenant. You need this precept to also go with breakdowns of uncircumcision to the circumcision, what Paul talks about. This is what's going to give you a better understanding of what Paul is saying when it comes to uncircumcision. The only way to be uncircumcised is to break the covenant of God. So this is how you know when Paul is talking about when Paul was referring to the uncircumcision in his verses, he wasn't talking about the heathen being uncircumcised. Because in the Bible, if you were uncircumcised, we called the heathen uncircumcised, like the uncircumcised Philistines, right? They were not Israelites, they were Philistines, they were heathens, and we called them uncircumcised simply because they were heathen. But now what you want to be a part of your breakdown is that in a context of being uncircumcised is also breaking the covenant, and the covenant was only made with the Israelites. That's something that we need to understand too as well. That's just a part of y'all notes and take breakdowns on and things like that to understand the New Testament just a lot more. But go ahead.
And joined themselves to the heathen.
And joined themselves to the heathen. This was another way to become uncircumcised. Martin Luther King uncircumcised the black community by joining ourselves to America and trying to and integrated us with America, which destroyed our school systems, that destroyed our businesses, that destroyed a lot of things that we set up All right, he was a part of it. That influence. Go ahead.
In verse 16. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt.
Now hold on. Now I may have to make you skip a little down for time's sake. So let's see. Gotta go down. You said again?
Verse 20.
Do I need verse 21? I may need to. Yeah, I think I do.
And we want to begin to focus on the
Yeah.
Hachaanakah.
Right. So we can go to verse 21 where the heathen maybe. Let me see. Hold on one second. I may have to go further down. Because that is a good one. Mm-hmm. And this is a good story to read. All right. So what we're gonna do, we may skip down to, you know what? Start at 21. Bump it. No sweat. We're just gonna start at 21. Brother, yeah, let's read 21. Let's skip down to 21. Bobo Shah. Salaki, the water. Get the brother hand.
Verse 21. And entered proudly into the sanctuary.
So now, and entered proudly into the sanctuary. Now, to give you a little bit of context, because I'm skipping ahead for time's sake. Antiochus, all right? Because in verse 20 it says, and after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again the 143rd year, went up against Israel and Jerusalem and with a great multitude. All right, Antiochus went to war with the Israelites with a great multitude. And this is what he did to our people. This is what the Greeks did to our people. Remember, Antiochus, he was a what? An evil root. All right, he was an evil root. He was an evil man. All right, and then simultaneously, while this is happening, there are people in our nation going through withdrawals and couldn't handle the pain and the suffering. All right, when it comes to serving the Lord, they decided to make a covenant. All right, with the Greeks, and then got into power. Now, to give y'all for time's sake, these very same people who are in power, those evil, wicked men, they became Pharisees and Sadducees. These are them. This happened during the Greek Empire, if you didn't know. All right? This happened then. This is how they got power. All right? These are the same evil men who went against Moses. All right? These are the same evil men who wanted to go back to Egypt. You understand? Because they couldn't handle the withdrawals. They couldn't handle the pain and suffering that came with not being a drug addict. That came with not having relations with oppressor women, all right, and African women and East Indian women. They couldn't handle it. They just couldn't handle not smoking weed anymore. They just couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle not surfing the internet for explicit content for whatever the hell it may be. They just couldn't handle it. It was too much for them. So they had no choice but to go back. They had no choice. And what's going back? What is that called? What's that process? If you going through withdrawals when you go back, what is that called? Shemagabal. What is that called?
That was
I understand. What is that called? You may not get it across the park. Oh wait, sister. Hey, listen, sister may got it. Give the sister a hand. Yeah, it's all right. Doc. Give the sister a hand. It's a relapse. Our people, these men, all right, they relapsed. They went back to the high that they couldn't handle not having. All right, they relapsed. All right. Continue reading, Baba Kushab.
Verse 20. Okay, verse 21. And entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof.
So now, of course, they went into our most sacred places, which is the sanctuary, our temples, like somewhere we are right now. And they took, imagine like taking this chalice right here, taking the menorah, just taking everything. All right, a candlestick is a menorah, or in the ancient Hebrew, menorah. All right, menorah just literally means candlestick. This is just a candlestick. Even though you see 7 of them, it's still a menorah. All right, go ahead.
Skip down to 24 for time's sake.
Go.
Kind of like going through just the other things that he took.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Verse 24. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly.
This is something Antiochus spoke very proudly of. Guess what? That's your Thanksgiving dinner. That's your Thanksgiving dinner right here in the Bible. This is something our oppressor is proud of. Our oppressor has always been proud of massacring our people. It's always been that way. This right here, you can put that down in your precept books. You can pull the scripture if you would like to understand that this right here has always been a custom of our oppressor. It was to be proud of the massacres, all right, that he committed, to the point where he would even make feasts about it. That's your Thanksgiving, which was the massacre of 700 Pequot Native Indians and women and children being burnt alive. Let's not talk about the Trail of Tears. Let's not talk about what Andrew Jackson did to the Native brothers. Should we mention that too? Why not? I'll tell you, over 77 million Native Americans were slaughtered by the hands of our oppressor, and Andrew Jackson had a hand in it. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson had a hand in it. Your Lewis Grants had Eustace Grants, all right, had a hand in it. Your Roosevelts had a hand in it. You understand? Go through the list of presidents. They had a hand in slaughtering the Native Americans by the thousands to the millions. And then they turn around and put them on TV for show. And then they also turn around and say they got a little bit of Cherokee in them. Imagine that. Imagine that. They always tell you, oh, I got a little Cherokee in myself. You know what I'm saying? I'm 1% Cherokee. I'm 1% Mohican. You're just a devil. You're just a devil. You're just a deceiver. All right, but continue reading.
25, verse 25. Therefore there was great mourning in Israel, in every place where they were.
And there was great mourning. There has always been mourning for the things that have happened to us. For time's sake, this is a heavy chapter, of course, for the beginning. Go to 2 Maccabees chapter 6. Let's go back there. So, no, you keep 7. I'm gonna try to get to 7. I still gotta try to go back to Ephesians and break down what I wanted to break down. All right. Now you see, because I wanted to break down that influence. We've seen how our own people, the Israelites, those wicked men that came out of Israel and made the covenant with our oppressor, like they were influenced before due to their withdrawals from other oppressors, from the other heathens that they used to be under, right? They were influenced by them. Remember, Paul was breaking down this because this are the people. Let's just read. Let's just read 2 Maccabees chapter 6 and 6, so I can try to get to it.
2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 6.
Please, I'm trying to fill your precept books as much as I can. So any brother out there, officers, troopers, I'm trying to help y'all. Salakia. I'm not trying to talk as much, but go ahead, Salakia.
Verse 6. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts.
Most High Christ. Did I tell you the verse, or you just knew where to go?
Oh, well, yeah, you said it though.
Did I say it? Oh, goddamn. Okay, okay.
Yeah, I got it though.
Okay, Most High Christ. Well, still, give the brother a hand. Goddamn. But damn right. All right. So read it from the top.
Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts.
Now, this was the process of what the Greeks did by being in charge of us. All right. We were not allowed to keep Sabbath days. Anybody know what the Sabbath is? Of course, we know the Sabbath day is a holy day. It's also considered a high holy day, and which is supposed to be our day of rest. All right, that's what it is. Go ahead.
Or to profess himself at all to be a Jew.
To profess themselves to be a Jew. Somebody break that down. Hachaanakah, break it down. What does it mean to profess themselves to be a Jew?
Call themselves or identify themselves as being a Jew.
Mm-hmm. Costa Park, give me some more. What does it mean to profess themselves to be a Jew?
Well, we wasn't able to, claim our identity during that time. They was trying to take our, as they do today, the president day of slavery,
right.
Take our heritage away and cause us to serve as as they are.
Come on, give yourselves a hand. Give yourselves a hand. Damn right. That's exactly what it is. Like you said, they couldn't call themselves the Jew. They could not give themselves them. They could not give themselves the identity that the Lord gave them. That was unlawful. Now remember, this is the Greek Empire, right? Go to verse 7. What does verse 7 say?
And in the day of the king's birth, every month they were brought by bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices.
And they were forced to eat the sacrifices based on, it said the king's birth, right? This is the king's birth, right? This is talking about the king's birth. This is birthdays.
Yep.
This is a birthday. All right. Like y'all want to know where birthdays come from? It comes from the Greek Empire. It comes from Egypt as well, but it's right here. All right, in the Greek Empire. All right, birthdays were never an Israelite custom. I pray y'all understand. And we were always forced to be a part of these kind of celebrations. Now, because of influence, we just voluntarily do birthdays. Am I making this up? Of course not, right? It's right there in front of us. It's right there. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
And when the feast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus, carrying ivy.
Now Bacchus is referring to that birthdays. It's referring to the king's birthday, all right, in particular. Go ahead.
Verse 8. Moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by the suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews.
Go ahead.
That they should observe the same fashions.
They should do what?
Observe the same fashions.
Now, they should observe the same fashions. This is the influence. This is because you had wicked men in our nation who could not handle serving the Most High, who could not handle the pain and suffering that's required to serve God and not go through the withdrawals. All right? Anyone out there, if you have any withdrawal, die for it. Just die. That's what I want you to do. Just die for it. Find something that you can actually die for once in your life. If that withdrawal is so hard that it feels like it's killing you, good. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to kill you inside that you can't have this anymore. That's the purpose of it all. That's what a withdrawal is. To the point where you're having shivers and shakes and you damn near die because you can't have the crack anymore. Well, take that same concept and use it for you're not able to eat pork anymore. You're not able to watch OnlyFans and explicit content. You can't eat what you want to eat anymore. You can't have relations with who you want to have relations anymore. Whatever your demon may be, die for it. Die for the withdrawal that you're going to have. Am I asking for too much? I might be asking for too much. You know, I might be asking for you to die for something you don't even give a damn about. But you will die smoking that cigarette anyway, by the way. You know, you may not die. You may not make the choice to die for not smoking cigarettes, but you're going to die for smoking cigarettes. I mean, just to point that out there. So it's either you die or you die. But which one has more honor? Just think about it. I just want y'all to think about it. Which one has more honor, more value to it? Take the time to think about it. Continue reading. Biblical shot.
Verse 8. And be partakers of their sacrifices.
And be partakers of their sacrifices. Meaning, so now these the customs of the Greeks, they want us to do the very same things that they do. All right, go ahead.
Verse 9. And whoso would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles should be put to death.
Wait, goddamn. So like, I forgot that word was there. Damn there, I forgot that Gentile word was right there. Start that from the top. Biblical shot.
Verse 9. And whoso would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles.
This is the reason why we were even considered Gentiles at one point. All right. That's why, by definition, if you go into this book right here, all right, maybe I can show it to y'all online. Of course, I know y'all can see it. But this is your Zondervan Bible Compact Dictionary, right? And it tells you what a Gentile is. All right, and by definition, I don't even have to look it up because I know it by heart. Usually means non-Israelite, because there are cases where it can actually mean an Israelite. All right, and this is why we were called Gentiles. Go ahead, ask your
So
question.
Salakia, this is the beginning of the whole Asia Minor,
Come.
from Quran, was the Quran, Ephesians.
This is where it starts.
This
exactly.
is where it started.
This is
That's
exactly
right.
where it started.
And the whole Paul thing, they
That's
get it
why.
mixed up with the
Right. Neither Jew nor Greek.
Greek, not knowing that we
were
were Greeks.
This is why we were Greeks. Because we would, I think later on, if you're going to continue reading it, I believe it says we would either die for it if we did not. But go ahead, continue so we can get there.
Verse 10, for there were two women brought who had circumcised their children, whom when they had openly led round about the city, the babes hanging at their breasts, they cast them down headlong from the wall. Verse 11, and others that had run together into caves nearby to keep the Sabbath day secretly, being discovered to Philip, were all burnt together, because they made a conscience to help themselves for the honor of the most sacred day.
Now, if you noticed that there were brothers and sisters, even though there was a decree or an order for you to do what the heathen do, there were brothers and sisters willing to die to serve the Lord. I want some of y'all Christians to understand that. There were brothers and sisters risking their lives to keep the Sabbath day, just to not eat pork and shrimp and lobster, to not be who the heathen wanted them to be. They risked their lives to be who God wanted them to be. Some of y'all can't even risk your lives just for anything. Some of these Christians out here can't risk their lives at all. At all. Actually, a Christian will take your life before they risk their own. That's what a Christian will do. A Christian will take someone else's life before they take their own. That's what a Christian will do. You understand? A Christian will take a life that hasn't even been in the world yet before they risk their own. Go ahead.
Like you said, I just want to bring up the point of that was telling in the story. It would be like, you know what I'm saying, a sister, you know, and it'd be a mother during this time that would purposely circumcise her child and still teach her child the law, knowing that this could cause her child and herself to be killed during this time.
Exactly.
And still took that sacrifice, and some of them actually was caught, and the babies were killed.
Exactly.
You know, but here it is today. I had to think to myself coming over here, like, we don't have that type of pressure right now. And the Most High actually got it to where we able to recognize Hachaanakah today.
Right.
And not recognize Christmas.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, as we would usually, you know, be. And a lot of us got the opportunity now to know the truth. And like you say, somebody still will not.
Still won't do it.
You know? Yeah. And that's a very, very deep you know, concept within itself when I let it really ponder on my mind. That's
absolutely, kind of get our brother a hand, because if you think about it too as well, if I may expound on that brother's point, like how many of you know about the catacombs? Y'all know about ever heard of the catacombs before? No, the catacombs. Let me tell you about the catacombs. Goddamn, the catacombs is something that's underground, and that's where they used to bury bodies and things like that. All right, used to bury underground. Those catacombs and those caves, things in the underground that you knew about in Europe and stuff like that, they were created far back then so we can serve the Lord. That's where catacombs come from. We had to go into caves and underground in order to keep the Sabbath service. That's the Maccabees. You understand? Like, so what the brother is saying is absolutely heavy. We had to go into caves just to keep the Sabbath service. You understand? All we're asking our people to do is to take one day out of your entire week and show up to the school at 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. to keep the Lord's Sabbath service. That's all we're asking brothers and sisters to do in the world. Just one. One day out of your week to reverence the Lord. Just one. Just one. When there were brothers and sisters risking their lives. All right? Hachaanakah, give me the type 7 since we're talking about sisters risking their lives. You got a question? What's your question now? Huh? No sweat. Go ahead.
Maccabees,
We start at verse 1.
Maccabees 7, verse 1. It came to pass also that 7 brethren with their mother were taken and compelled by the king against the law to taste swine's flesh.
To taste what?
Swine's flesh.
That pork has always been a demon and has always been an influence from our oppressor. Always. It has never, that has always been an influence from our oppressor. The only reason why we love ham hocks and pork chops and that bacon and all that other type of stuff, because it was an influence from our oppressor. And because of that influence, it became a desire to have it. And we built a lust for it. And then now it's something that if we can't have it, now it's like a withdrawal. It's like, oh my God, I just have to have bacon on everything. Have you ever talked to a brother and a sister in the world where they just have to have bacon on everything? Like if you even go to certain restaurants, they'll just put bacon in everything. If you don't ask for the ingredients, you won't even know that there's just pork or bacon somewhere on your burger, in your salad, in a goddamn salad. I just wanted a damn salad. Give me a salad. They're like, oh, it comes with ham and bacon, with the chopped up ham and with the bacon bits. I just want a salad. I thought a salad was supposed to be non-meat eaters anyway. What's going on? That's because this was an influence from our oppressor since the Greek Empire. It's right there. All right, go ahead.
And were tormented with scourges.
And they were what?
And were tormented.
So they were tormented with scourges. Go ahead and finish it off.
And whips.
And so it was 7 brethren with their mother. So when it says brethren and their mother, these brethren must have been what? Brothers. And so that means they were the sons of this woman. And they were tormented, all right, and with scourges and whips. A scourge and a whip is almost like the same thing, something that you strike with, all right. I believe a whip is more so long with this, and it's like twisted, but a scourge is more so frayed, all right, more so frayed. There's a difference. Yeah, right, exactly. But it's still, you still strike with it, and it causes welts, and you can damn near die. Just like when our oppressor during the times of slavery, like I know our oppressor tries to diminish and and play down slavery. Like those whips, all right, that came from slavery, that used to kill brothers and sisters. You understand? Those kind of welts that it caused and the amount of internal bleeding. Like remember, you're tying a brother or a sister to a tree or some plank, and then you're taking a whip and you're striking them with it to the point that they could be bleeding to death. Some of your organs, your major organs, are right there in your back. Your nerves, your nervous system is right there in your back. You know how much that affected a brother or a sister being whipped that hard? You probably couldn't. Yes, of course you couldn't walk. Of course you couldn't breathe. Your lungs are back there. You understand? Like it affected so much, and then you're bleeding half to death. Not everyone survived a whipping. That's why when they say a cat got your tongue, y'all remember that class that Officer Yagadar did? That's true. That's real. A cat got your tongue. That's referring to the whip striking you, and you can't even speak. You understand? That's why when our parents back in the day used to beat us with the belt, it used to be so hard. You had that long pause. You remember that? That long pause, because you just like, damn, that hurt. You can't even scream. You know what I'm saying? That's what that was. Cat got your tongue. That came from slavery. You understand? Go ahead.
Verse 2. But one of them that spake first said thus, what wouldest thou ask or learn of us?
Mm-hmm.
We are ready to die.
Go ahead.
Rather than to transgress the laws of our fathers.
So there was one of them that spake first. Now this is them speaking in front of everybody, in front of the king, because they were not going to eat pork. Now, of course, no Christian could ever do this. You understand? They're not going to stand up and say any of this. No Christian is going to stand up and say, I'm willing to die to not eat this pork. They're going to eat it. Because of how heavily they've been influenced by our oppressor, they already have it in the refrigerator right now. But there was a time and point, and there were people of our nation, they were willing to sacrifice their life to not even eat them ham hocks and them chitlins and them pork chops and that bacon. They were willing to die for it. You understand? That pain and that suffering that those leaders that they couldn't handle that withdrawal, these brothers were able to handle that withdrawal. But go ahead,
Real quick, the influence, you speak on the influence, like, now I'm thinking about it, these influences are thousands of years old.
Thousands of years old. That's why the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. Give that brother a hand. That's damn right. You know what I'm saying? These influences are thousands of years old. Continue.
Then the king, being enraged, commanded pans and caldrons to be made hot.
They made what?
To be made hot.
Now, I want you to understand something. Does anybody know what a pan is and a cauldron is? Sis, you know what a pan or a cauldron is? Well, what's a pan?
Pan that you cook.
Okay. So, all right. Hachaanakah, what's a cauldron?
I think it's something like you can like make brand something with.
No, I mean that's a part of the process too. But across the part, that's true. Go ahead, across the part. You know what a cauldron is?
I would just, I'm not really sure.
No sweat.
Thing like a hot plate, though.
That's exactly. So you play close to it. So these are big pots. These are like huge pots. Think of y'all may have never seen this before, but you get there. We just cook on the stove, right? And we have regular pans and pots. But if you're like cooking for a group, like a huge people, there are huge pots that you would cook in. You know, sis, you know what I'm talking about? You'll find them in certain cafeterias and chefs where there's like a huge pot where a human, right, and a human body could fit in it. If you really wanted to, a human body could fit in some of those pots. And you got like a big, give also a big pot, and you can take a ladle and literally you're stirring whatever beef stew you could be making. Like that's a cauldron. All right, that's those pans that they're talking about. All right, go ahead. So the king said, "Get these ready." Go ahead.
Which forthwith, being heated,
Mm-hmm.
he commanded to cut out the tongue of him that spake first.
So he said, because he spoke that he wasn't going to eat this pork, because he spoke up and said, "I'm not going to go against the Lord," he cut his tongue off. Real quick, across the Paul. This is heavy right here. Go to 2 Maccabees chapter 15. Oh man. And I want you to hold and Hachaanakah, hold right there. I want 2 Maccabees 15, and I want verse, I think somewhere around 33 and 34. Let me see. Somewhere where it says they cut off the tongue.
30 verse 33.
Is it 33?
Come.
Okay, Khan.
And when he had cut out the tongue of that ungodly Nicanor,
So Nicanor, now this was a evil man. Go ahead.
he commanded that they should give it back pieces unto the fowls.
Listen, this is justice. You understand? This is justice. This is during the entire process of us getting justice, all right, and going to war with the Greeks for what they've done to us. Their king cut our people's tongues off for serving the Lord. Well, guess what? The Lord gave us the opportunity to cut their tongues off, and we gave it to the rest of everybody. Give me more. I believe they took their head too, if I'm not mistaken. Continue.
Yeah. Verse 34. So every man prays toward the heaven, the glorious Lord, saying, "Blessed be he that hath kept his own place undefiled."
And this right here, this was giving thanks to the Lord that we were able to take the tongue out of an evil man, all right, and just give it to our people to let you know, like, this is what the Lord did. You understand? Now go back to 7 so we can continue. The water for that.
And to cut off the utmost parts of his body.
And so he cut the utmost parts of his body. He dismantled this brother because he spoke up against just to serve the Lord. Go ahead.
The rest of his brethren and his mother looking on.
Now, his entire brother and sister is watching this brother getting dismantled with his tongue cut off. Does it sound familiar? Does it sound familiar to anybody? It's almost like we could be having deja vu. Go ahead.
Slavery.
I wouldn't even say that out, but you're right. What else is this? Does this sound familiar? Listen, some of y'all may not realize this. This is why our oppressor is the goddamn devil that speaks of. All right? This happened in the 40s, y'all. In the 50s and 60s. Some of us was born in the 60s. Some of us have parents that were teenagers in the 60s. We have grandparents that are still living that were grown in the 60s that witnessed this kind of behavior. And because of the influence of Christianity, they disregarded all of the crimes and all of the torture and the torment that was done to our people. And then they watched it. They watched it happen, and there was nothing they could do about it. But if we actually serve the Lord, there can be something done about the torment and the horrific things that was done to our people. That's why I made the brother read all the way to 15, where we got justice, and the tongue was cut out of that man's head because of how evil he was. Yes.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Can you live without your tongue? Like,
Can you live without your tongue?
yeah.
Well, yes, you can. You can. The bleeding could possibly stop over time if you get the right, medical doctors in there and things like that. But it's going to be hard to eat. With technology, you could live, but back then you may not live too long. You could probably eat certain foods. You have to be on a strict diet, and you're not going to be able to speak because your tongue you use. There's a lot of words you need your tongue for that you don't realize. You're going to be a mute, but you can possibly live without having a tongue. You possibly could. Actually, a lot of our own people during slavery lived without tongues and teeth. That's what our oppressor did to us. They would take our tongues out, and they would heal over time, and we just could not talk, and we would just be picking that cotton. Our teeth were dismantled out of our mouths because we were willing to starve to death in order to be a slave. I mean, literally chiseled out with a hammer and a chisel, all out. Imagine that. We hate going to the dentist now. We hate the dentist. You know what I'm saying? It still hurts. Get the needle inside, and you can still kind of feel the pain getting your teeth pulled, right? Anyone got wisdom teeth pulled out before, or any kind of teeth pulled? Listen, and how many of y'all had a toothache back here? Horrible. All of us, right? Now imagine getting your teeth knocked out. Horrible pain. This is something our oppressor has to pay for. They have to. We just cannot ignore it. You understand? We can't just forgive and forget. I'm not going to have amnesia, and I pray that y'all never do. You understand? No amnesia is happening here. We know what happened. You're going to have to pay for it. Just like Nicanor paid for it with his tongue taken out because of what this king did by taking the tongue out of our people. I'm over time. Just give me one more scripture over. Give me two more scriptures. Just keep reading. I wish I could break. I may want to go. I wish I could go back to the preachers, but I can't. I know y'all gotta get out of here. It's getting a little late. So lock you. Go ahead.
Now, when he was thus maimed in all of his members, he commanded him, being yet alive, to be brought to the fire.
So now he was still alive and living, even though he was dismembered, meaning he still had some breath in his lungs. He had some fight left. Go ahead.
And to be fried in the pan.
And he was what?
And to be fried in the pan.
This is nothing new. Our oppressors have always done this to us. Go ahead.
And as the vapor of the pan was for a good space dispersed, they exhorted
It said for the mother to die manfully. Like this is how evil this king was. Continue reading.
saying thus, the Lord God looketh upon us, and in truth have comfort in us, as Moses in his song, which witnessed to their faces, declared, saying, and he shall be comforted in his servants.
Now I want y'all to understand this. Now I'm gonna stop right here for time's sake because I'm not gonna, I want to be able to end class, whatever the case may be. But this sister right here, I want y'all to take the time to read. I want y'all to take the time, Bubba Kwashai, because this sister is not spoken about as much as she should be. But I love this verse. You understand? I love this passage right here in the Bible. This is actually one of my favorite passages. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of brothers and sisters have a terrible outlook on the ISUPK when it comes to us and sisters, and it's just so evil, and it's not even true. You understand? We talk about sisters in the UPK of how beautiful they are and the courage that they have. You understand? And they do beautiful things and great things for the nation because sisters are very essential. And I want y'all to read this passage and see how much of a great mother this woman right here was. This is if you want to talk about a strong woman, read Second Maccabees chapter 7. That's a strong woman. All right. We're going to that's our holy days, the Feast of Purim. That's a strong woman. All right. Read about Deborah, Deborah. That's a strong woman. You understand? Read about the woman who taught King Solomon, which was his mother. Proverbs 31 would not exist if it wasn't for a woman teaching her son. You understand? Like these things are in the Bible. And as a woman, she understood her place. She understood, men, there's no equality between a man and a woman. She even told her son, don't give your strength unto women. Like these things were said by a strong woman. These were the words of his mother. You just read Proverbs 31 and 1 to get that context. But read Second Maccabees chapter 7 and all the way down. This mother right here, she raised some strong, she raised them boys up. You understand? Because I believe, I'm not mistaken, their father was gone because he was killed for being as strong as he was. Their father wasn't going to serve the king, and he died. And their sons followed behind, and their mother taught the very same thing that their father wanted them boys to be like, just like this, willing to get dismembered for the Lord. Some of y'all can't even handle a goddamn withdrawal. But this man right here, he handled being dismembered and his tongue taken out. All right? So with that, I'm going to say Shalom Israel, with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander Junior Hachaanakah. We're not affiliated with either Israelite school, all right, or any Christian organization. With that, Shalom.